in the rest of the country, the color of my skin, maybe the color of your skin, it wouldn't have automatically precluded us from playing. It robbed a lot of talented ball players from appearing in the major leagues. But then, on the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, MLB decided to do this great thing on behalf of the veterans of the Negro Leagues, and they were awarded pensions, pretty much $7,500 to $10,000 a year. And then 4 years later, in 2001, a second group of Negro League veterans got, it wasn't exactly $7,500 to $10,000 a year. It was $40,000 for 4 years, or $400 a month for life. Those are great things to do. But I'm not a labor employment attorney. I don't know if you gentlemen are, but ask anyone who is, and they'll tell you that strictly speaking, while that was a great gesture, these guys didn't have an employment contractual relationship with the employer, with MLB. It's a wonderful thing. But listen, Nick, Steve, let's say you guys work for Company A. You work, 8 years. You know the pension plan is 10 years. Well, you'd both be a bit PO'd if you got fired or if you left, but all things being equal, you'd probably say to yourself, I know that I didn't have enough years to be eligible for a pension. Well, then I come along, Doug Gladstone. I've never worked for Company A, and Company A gives me the pension, your pension. Now, how would you feel if that scenario happened? You'd probably be a little frustrated. That's the predicament that these ball players are finding themselves in. They're very happy for the veterans of the Negro Leagues, but again, from an employment contractual relationship, these guys didn't have any employment contractual relationship with MLB by and large.
Doug Gladstone on with us tonight. This is the Seamheads.com radio hour on Blog Talk Radio. Steve Lennox and Nick Waddell, your host tonight on this, the 19th day of July 2010. The book, A Bitter Cup of Coffee, How MLB and the Players Association Threw 874 Retirees a Curve. Doug, the number, as you said, since you started this project, the numbers have dwindled with players passing. 874. Was it difficult getting a hold of every single player that this affected? And my second part would be, now that they're sort of there and they're trying to get this, and it seems only fair that they get their pension plan and everything, are they being treated fairly by their former clubs, or are they sort of considered guys that are shaking the bushes right now and stirring up the pot? Well,
of course, I don't feel they're being treated fairly. And to be quite honest with you, Steve, I don't even know if most of the 30 player reps even know about this issue to begin with. It would be doubly unseemly if, in fact, they knew about it and then, for their own pie, didn't want to sacrifice a slice of the pie for these, I think one of you gentlemen alluded at the outset of the program, you called them pioneers or trailblazers. These are the guys who paved the path for the A-Rods to command their $28 million a year, for Jason Bay to get his 4-year, $65 million contract, for Matt Holliday to get his 7 years and $105 million, for Ryan Howard to command a contract extension of 5 years and $125 million. I really believe that if... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would think, I would think they'd be indifferent to it, just because of being in clubhouses over the last few years, and I just think they'll eat their young if they can, and they have no interest in outside of what is tunnel vision right in front of them. They may give you a politically correct answer, but I'm tired of trying to be politically correct. I would just say right out, flat out, a majority of those guys wouldn't care about this issue because, and I can say that here in our audience is what it is. This isn't a national show on ESPN radio or Fox or anything like that, but it disturbs me, but I think that's the reality of it.
You know what? I'm even allowing for the possibility that you're right, but until I hear from a player like Curtis Granderson or Mark Teixeira of the Yankees, or Jeff Francoeur from the Mets, or Hunter Pence from the Astros, or Troy Tulowitzki of the Colorado Rockies. Those are player reps. I want to know, I want them to go on the record as having said that, this came before us and we turned it down because of the very reasons you're citing. We don't want our share of the pie to be diminished. But the simple truth is, Steve, the Players Union was not exactly forthcoming in divulging this information to me. The names of the 30 player reps is about as guarded a secret as is the formula for Coca-Cola, which is actually housed in a bank in Atlanta, the corporate offices of SunTrust. But that's besides the point. I digress. As I said, the players rep was not real. The Players Union was not going out of their way to help me. I put in lots of calls to Steve Rogers, the old Montreal Expos great right-handed hurler, who is the player liaison to Michael Weiner at the Union. I never received the courtesy of a call back from either gentleman. And as for, the very idea that players who maybe aren't player reps have a position about this, the book goes out of its way to talk about the case of Lyle Overbay, the first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Lyle Overbay, his children play with the grandchildren of a gentleman named Darcy Fast. Darcy Fast, to all the old-timers in the audience, was a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs. Nick, you probably remember him. Great things were counted upon Darcy Fast in 1969, but he had a more important calling. He had to serve a tour of duty in Vietnam, and he never pitched in 1969. He threw about 8 games in 68, and like I said, he was counted on to be at the back end of manager Leo DeRocher's rotation in 69. The point I'm trying to say is, after fulfilling his military obligations, he became a chaplain, and he just retired as the pastor at a church in Centralia, Washington. And when I asked his son to talk to their good friend, Lyle Overbay, you know what the answer was? He said, I've never heard about this issue. Now, Steve, when you have a level playing field, it's one thing. If you got all 840 ball players in a room and put this matter to the vote, okay, I agree with you. Maybe a lot of them would say, forget the old guys, forget them. But I bet you a lot of them would probably recognize that their contributions were important so that today's ball player could command the obscene, grotesque amount of money that a lot of these ball players are making. But my point is, you have to be well-grounded in life about any issue. And I suspect that a lot of these ball players, like Lyle Overbay, just don't know about the issue.
But, Doug, then on the tail of that, what about a guy like Jason Grilli, who's been around for a while, and his own dad is affected by it? What do you think the issue is with someone like him who has been around, and you would assume that he would have to know about this sort of issue going on? Do you think it's a case of a modern player turning a blind eye, or do you think it's a case of they don't truly understand the impact of what this is?
I'm going to tell you exactly what Jason told me, because his dad, Steve, you're right, is profiled in this book. He pitched for the Tigers and briefly for the Toronto Blue Jays. He had his cup of coffee. He now runs a popular tavern in Baldwinsville, New York. And Jason has made some public comments about this on another radio program. I won't give that show a plug, but his comments definitely are out there. But the simple truth is, Nick, Jason told me one Sunday afternoon, and as I'm sure your listeners know, he was going to be in the Cleveland bullpen this year. He had a terrible accident. He's now undergoing rigorous rehab treatments. And he basically said, you know what, Doug, I love my dad, but the God's honest truth is I can't just, start advocating and stirring the pot. I'm trying to make a ball team here. So in his own quiet